to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Don't forget to log on www.rainieravenue radio.world.
Sa Washington, karamihan ay sang-ayon na ang ating kalsada ay ligtas pag isinangtabi ang telepono. Pero hindi ito madali. Ibahagi ang mensaheng ito at maging halimbawa. Bago umalis, ilagay ang telepono sa glove box. Iset sa Do Not Disturb. Hikayatin ng mga kaibigan at pamilya na gawin din ito. Dahil pag ginawa ang parte natin, ang kalsada ay ligtas para sa lahat. Sabay tayong makakarating doon. Isang mensahe mula sa Washington Traffic Safety Commission.
How would COVID vaccines work in your body? Here are 3 things to know. Number 1, a vaccine is basically a training session for the immune system. Vaccines teach the immune system to look for the key features of a virus. So when a virus does show up, it's ready to fight it off. Number 2, a vaccine gives your body a plan to recognize the virus. Then your immune system starts preparing by making antibodies, or fighter cells, that stay in your blood as protection in case the virus tries to invade. What this means is you get immunity against the disease without having to get sick first. Number 3, when enough people's bodies know how to fight off a virus, it has nowhere to go. That slows the spread. When people get a vaccine, we're able to stop the spread quicker and get closer to ending the pandemic. To learn more, go to covidvaccinewa.org. A message from the state of Washington.
Oh my man. You know, everybody goes through a storm sometimes.
God is, and Rainier Avenue Radio.world have a new address. We're now located at 4916 Rainier Avenue South in Columbia City, 98118. God is still loving on your community, being a blessing and meeting the needs of the people. Don't miss any of our amazing shows. Your favorite community radio station. Tune in and come on down and get some free food and let us continue to love on you. Don't forget to tune in. See you soon for free food and free entertainment with God is and Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Почти никто не будет спорить, что дороги в нашем штате могут стать более безопасными, если при вождении телефоны будут вне досягаемости. Но сделать это не так просто, поэтому подайте пример. Уберите телефон в бардачок и переключите его в режим «Не беспокоить» и попросите родных и друзей сделать то же самое. Потому что, когда каждый из нас внесет свою лепту в это общее дело, дороги станут более безопасными для всех. Мы можем добиться этого только совместными усилиями. Это было сообщение от Комиссии по безопасности на транспорте штата Вашингтон.
Citizens of America or citizens of the world, let us begin.
Rainier Avenue Radio.
Everybody on this beautiful, beautiful afternoon. How y'all feeling? This is so beautiful today. And anybody knows me knows where I got to start. First and foremost, always giving all the honor and glory to God. I'm grateful for today, and I'm grateful for all y'all who were here. On behalf of the Martin Luther King Commemoration Committee, I want to thank the Seattle Department of Parks and Recreation. Thank you, Parks and Recreation. They've always been there for us. Christopher, are you here?
Yeah, working.
Christopher Williams.
Hello.
Why would you say Christopher Williams, the superintendent of Parks, has done an absolutely fabulous job. And every time any of us on the Martin Luther King Committee want to give a program here, they've always been there for us. In the month of February, we light this park in honor of Black History as a tribute. On April 4th, every year we commemorate the passing or the assassination of Dr. King, but at the same time, we try to acknowledge and remember those local civil rights people who've passed away. so that they aren't forgotten in time. Last day marks the 59th anniversary of the March on Washington.
1 2 1 2.
Jobs and freedom. And we want to recognize people like our award recipients who've applied the principles of Dr. King in support in support of ongoing civil rights movement and to bring hope to the hopeless by addressing the powerful on behalf of the disempowered. These are the people. I'm going to give them a round of applause, please, for our recipients of these awards. Now, on that note, I'm going to call up Minister Jimmy Hurd from Holgate Street Church of Christ, and he's going to lead us in our invocation. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you. Let's pray. Our Father, first of all, we want to acknowledge you as our maker and our sustainer. We thank you for this day, and we thank you for those who have come before us, upon whose shoulders we stand, our leaders to liberty. We thank you for those who are the unsung heroes, whose names television or radio, but who gave their lives as well. And we thank you for this great city and the county in which we live, and we pray for its leaders. We pray especially for Bruce Harrell, our mayor. May you crown him and others with wisdom, with knowledge, with discernment, so they can lead in a way in which benefits all people of this area. We thank you for those who we'll be recognizing today. We thank you for their service. May their lives inspire all of us to give our lives for the good of others. We pray in the name of Jesus our Lord. Amen. Amen. By the way, if you have a need for restroom facilities, our church is right down the street here. I'll be standing over here so I can escort you if you have that need. Thank you.
Okay, now we will have Chandler Williams. We're going to do Lift Every Voice and Sing. So Chandler Williams, would you please come up? Butch Williams, can you, Butch Williams on the keys or either the saxophone. Welcome, Claude and Representative Santos. That's the only one where I can hear speakers. Lift Every Voice and Sing, y'all.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling seas. Sing a song for everything that encompasses the stars. Sing a song for the hope that the present has brought. They sing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, I'm going to start rolling real quick here. Representative Santos honoree Claude Burfect, who actually attended the 1963 March on Washington. So we're going to get started. We're waiting for my co-MC, Nashade Moore, who is the chair of the Seattle Organizing MLK Coalition. So we're going to get started. We would like to have Representative Sharon Tomiko Santos honor Bridget Hempstead. I'm not going in order of the program. Representative Santos. You didn't know you were going to be first, did you?
Well, thank you so much, Eddie. And family and community. It's such an honor to be here as we come together in recognition of the 69th anniversary of the assassination of a great American and the March on Washington. Thank you. My notes had it wrong in the calendar. On the March on Washington, a great American who helped center us as a people and as a nation on what is important, what is the important characteristic of our nation, and that is the idea of liberty and justice for all. Eddie did ask me to make a presentation of the Odessa Brown Humanitarian Award to Bridgette Hempstead for her exceptional, dedicated service to increase breast cancer awareness. And before I have her come out into the sun, I want to protect her a little bit because she just informed me that she's going through chemotherapy. I do want to let you know about how I know my friend Bridgette Hempstead. You see, I'm a cancer survivor, and I survived ovarian cancer, which is a very close relative to breast cancer. And so when I was going through this, any of you who have gone through a life-transforming illness or experience like cancer for yourself or for your family member, you spend a lot of time doing research, trying to figure out what the heck's going on with you and whether or not you're getting the best medical advice that is appropriate to who you are, by your gender, by your race, by your ethnicity, because we know the hospitals weren't set up for us to begin with. And that's how I came across Sierra Sisters. Sierra Sisters was founded by Bridgette Hempstead. It was a support group for Black women who were dealing with a diagnosis of breast cancer. And I know that Bridgette had gone through that diagnosis earlier on. She was successful in her first fight. While I don't know the details of what she's going through now, I know with all of you surrounding her, with your love and your support, she is going to beat this current battle that she has and come out victorious with the help of the treatment that she's going through. But in the meantime, it is my honor to present Bridgette Hempstead with the Odessa Brown Humanitarian Award for her faithful efforts to support all women, not just Black women, but first and foremost, Black women and other women of color who are not finding the appropriate resources in the established medical community so that we can get through this as a family together. And so I will ask Bridgette to come forward and receive this award with love and affection from your community, and our thanks for all you've done.
This is truly an honor, and I want to thank everyone who has supported Sierra Sisters, who supported me through this journey. I have some good news. I've been in chemotherapy for a few weeks. Cancer markers are down more than 50%. I'll have a little break in September, and then we will reevaluate. But we're in it to win it. I continue to push research for Black communities and BIPOC communities, and it's with your support that makes a difference. Continue to bless us to have a voice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next honoree is Claudia Coughlin. She's getting the Roberto Maestas Community Leadership Award. And I'm going to present that award because I occupied Beacon Hill School with Maestas and a bunch of others. And then I also helped occupy the city council, demand that the building be turned over to El Centro de la Raza. So I feel like I have as much authority to make the presentation as anyone else. And if you go to El Centro de la Raza, you will see me in charge of city council. We did the overtake in October, it'll be 50 years ago. We took over city council and we finally but they made them release the building for 27 years before they sold it to them. You know how that works. Did not redline them out. So I like to call my sister Claudia Coughlin up. As a matter of fact, you will see her name on the ballot coming up for the 47th district. I won't say nothing about our opponent, but he's a Republican, okay, and he's black. Okay, I just want everybody to know his name is Bill Boyce. So when I interview candidates on the radio, I'm gonna say, do you support Donald Trump? Do you support a woman's right to choose? Do you support affirmative action? Okay, here you go, Miss Claudia.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. And it's wonderful to be back up here. I grew up on Beacon Hill. Actually, Eddie, I attended Beacon Hill Elementary right when you were taking it over. I was there. So thank you. It's nice to be back and to continue the work within our communities of color. For over 20 years, I've worked with the Muckleshoot tribe in their charitable giving program and continue to do outreach to all the communities in communities of color, doing the good work, doing civic engagement, doing work. It's a Sierra Sisters was one. It was great to see you again. So all of my work within the charitable giving, within government affairs, but also within communities of color, with MEDC, all these things that we've done together. I appreciate the opportunity, and yes, I am moving forward, and I am running for office again, and because representation matters. We need to have all of our people at every level, and I'm such honored to be here amongst all of you. Thank you so much.
Okay, Butch Harrison. We're going to hear a little music from Butch Harrison. I don't know if you and Chandler can sing and play at the same time. We'll go right ahead. And then we'll get to you real soon. We're not going to leave you out here too long. Because the mayor was busy yesterday at the Garfield Centennial. Did an excellent job emceeing the program. So congratulations, 76 Garfield High School Bulldog. All right now. Oatmeal man.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, bright blessed day, and a dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. It's just RARW. All the colors of the rainbow. so pretty in the sky. There are all faces of the people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying how do you do? They're saying I love you. As a tree, I watched them grow. They learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. All the colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky. There are the faces of the people passing by. And I see friends shaking hands, saying how you do. And they say that I love you. My baby's crying. I watched them grow. They learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much, Butch Harrison. Next, I would like to say, are there any elected officials here? Other than the mayor, we know the mayor is here. We know Sharon Santos is here. Any candidates? Anybody out here is running for anything? Okay, if you are, I want people to take notice who's running and then ask them the critical questions. We won't see right on, so I'm going to call up Bishop Zachary Bruce. Oh, and who's that? Is that a street? All right, Mr. Street. Okay, then. Good luck to you, man. Okay.
Hey, Raj.
Something too, I'll tell you that. But I want to have Reverend Jeffrey come up at this time. He and Reverend Bruce worked together for a long time. So, Reverend Jeffrey is the senior pastor of New Hope Missionary Baptist Church, founded Black Holiday Task Force, founded Clean Ridge Farm and Market. All that on 21st. He also recently got entitled to an apartment building on 17th and Jackson with multi-units, and he's also built several townhomes. And that's a brother you could almost vote for.
Thank you, Eddie. There are a few times when I have the pleasure that I have today in my life. The young man that I'm going to present this plaque to, I met him in the late 80s. We founded the Black Holiday Task Force. We were NWA before there was an NWA. We were niggas with attitudes. Our blood is all over this city, from Boeing to Nostrils. with Bull Connor Awards. I have great respect for him, the work that he did while at the task force Inner City Entrepreneurial Training Program, which he single-handedly run, graduating over 100, more than 100 small business people, giving out hundreds of thousands of dollars in loans. Those businesses didn't succeed because we live in a racist city. The banks still kill us. It's not because of your. He is a man who has founded Freedom Church from nothing. He started a youth organization in that church that is one of the major youth organizations in our city. He is a warrior, soldier for this community and for Christ. It is my distinct honor to present to you this award, Bishop. Martin Luther King Jr., Samuel, Reverend Dr. Samuel B. McKinney, Bishop, to present to Bishop Zachary Sr., who embodying the highest level of honorable leadership, spiritual discernment to our beloved community, August 28, 2027.
I'm going to be real brief, but I need the Jesus Center to come down real fast. Community partners, come real quick. Come quick. Quick preacher, 2 minutes. Our friends, just come fast, everybody. I just want them to stand. Dr. Gene Harrison, serving in our community 40 years. I'm out of here in 45 seconds, Saints. Just come on down real fast. Anything we receive it together. Any work we do the work together. So any recognition, we receive it together. And I just wanted to take 30 more seconds and just thank my friends and the colleagues that are doing the work every day. And would you just honor them for me? Would you give them a hand? And just wanted them to be here with us. And thank you all for your grace. Thank you for everything. We love you. All honor to God, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Thank you.
I know, but he's not getting anything. No, he is. He is. Can you put it back? He is. He was getting something. I would he's getting it. Yeah, but he's not coming to do it.
Thank you very much. Is Christina Blocker here? Christina is one of the leaders of the Tacoma Pierce County Black Collective. And between she and her go-get-em husband, who is Mr. Keith Blocker, on the Tacoma City Council Deputy Mayor, we have to honor people who are coming up with unique kind of things. And believe me, the person she's going to introduce you is one of those people. Thank you so much.
Happy Sunday, everyone. How are you doing? It is such an honor to be with you all today, especially to be representing the Tacoma Pierce County Black Collective. For those that have never attended a Black Collective meeting or may not have heard about the Black Collective has been operating, been working, been serving our communities for over 50 years. It's an organization that came out of our civil rights movement in Tacoma Pierce County, and since then, leaders every single Saturday without any, it doesn't matter if it's Christmas, it doesn't matter if it's New Year's, folks are meeting from 8:30 to 10 to talk about issues connected to the Black community, to issues about health, issues about education, issues about political advocacy, issues about social justice, issues about economic development. These are all the things that the Black Collective works for, advocates for, and connects our communities together to advocate for our folks within our communities. So today, it is such an honor to be here to present an award to Tisha Marie Wosencroft. Tisha has been doing such amazing work through Legally Black and has just been an outstanding leader in the Tacoma Pierce County area. So Tisha, are you here? You are. Perfect. It is such an honor to present this to you on behalf of the Tacoma Pierce County Black Collective, on behalf of Lau Kwasim as chair. It is an honor to award you with this
Well-deserved distinguished award.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I actually prepared a little thank you because if I didn't, I would ramble on and on and on. But good afternoon, kings, queens, and royalty. Thank you so much for this honor. If you know me, you know I am a woman of many words, so I'm going to try to make this brief. And yet today, I'm finding it difficult to have enough of to make how full of gratitude and appreciation to be among such distinguished and honorable people is an honor in itself. So a round of applause for everyone here, please. I can't hug you all myself, but I would if I could. I trust that I'm in good company when I say this, that I don't do this work for attention or titles or accolades, but because it's necessary. Our leaders of the past have put the work down to lay the foundation for us to build on today. And I believe it is our responsibility to ensure that their efforts were not made in vain. Yes, some things have changed, but they've also unveiled deeper rooted issues that plague us still as a people today in a number of ways. We are far from where we started, but we are still far from the mountaintop Dr. King dreamed. I hope to help bring the vision of Martin, Malcolm, Angela Davis, James Baldwin, Barack, and Miss Jones to fruition. Thank you for seeing me, our community, the diverse team that makes up Legally Black, and all of our collective efforts and our impact. It really feels good to know that the work that I'm leading, the work that all of us are leading, are giving those who once felt hopeless hope again. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and keep up that good work over there. We can emulate some of that over here. Next, I'd like to is Senator Bob Hasegawa here. Senator Bob, would you please come forward and introduce someone you know very well? Bob Hassagawa is, oh man, my notes. Hassagawa was a state senator from the 11th district, and there's nothing on here. But anyway, he is a senator from the 11th district, and he's done such a wonderful job that no one ran against him. But when he tried to start a bank, so all the money would stay in Washington State, a one-leg broke bank lobbyist killed 50 people. So they're still getting all the money. Go ahead, Senator Bob.
Brother Eddie, thank you so much. I really want to express my thanks to you, Brother Eddie Rye and Hayward Evans, wherever you are, for giving me one of the greatest honors that a father could probably ever have, and that is to present an award, the Yaki Kurose Public Servant Award, to my daughter. Because, you know, Dr. King, here we are 59 years after the March for Jobs and Freedom, and we're still struggling, but the hope is alive. And the greatest example of expressing one's hope for the future is to bring children in the world and to teach them to have hope and to fight and struggle for justice. So my daughter has lived up to that every last piece of the struggle. You know, from the day that she was holding a picket sign in preschool with Dr. Martin Luther King's picture on it, marching for peace and justice and jobs and freedom. From that, she grew up to holding picket signs in sanitation workers' strikes. From that, she went to linking arms with her father at SeaTac Airport when the Muslim ban they were trying to impose that. We shut that down. That's right. We went to the Port of Seattle offices to fight for economic opportunities for minority business contractors. So now she is in a position where she can make those changes, and she's well on the road to doing that. And so I'm so proud to be able to give this to my daughter, and the Aki Sogabe Public Servant Award, no less. Aki Sogabe. My bad. We had this conversation earlier. Aki Kurose.
The 55th March on Washington was who? Toshiko Hasegawa. Okay, go ahead.
I'm so embarrassed. My apologies to the Kurose family, but she is one of the mainstays of Aki Kurose, was one of the rocks for our community, the JA community, in league with Dr. Martin Luther King. So anyway, so proud of you, baby.
Eddie really did it this time. I had no idea they were going to do that. I'm tremendously humbled and overwhelmed, quite frankly. Fortunately, I wrote my remarks. I'd like to thank the MLK Junior Commemoration Committee for this incredibly generous and humbling recognition. To win an award in honor of Aki Kurose's legacy on the anniversary of the March on Washington is an honor beyond words. Aki Kurose was a Quaker, not in that Franklin sense, but in the real sense. In fact, she was a Garfield bulldog. Oof. Any bulldogs in the house? I'm in good company. She subscribed to pacifism, quite similar to how Dr. King subscribed to nonviolence. She was a civil rights advocate whose whole family actually physically lived on the red line. And she literally pushed the line, and she did it figuratively as well, on behalf of communities of color. Aki fiercely believed that education was the key to future success and made love and compassion her method. When asked about her support for the peace movement, Aki replied, "Peace is empowering." Well, there are a lot of people who empowered me with peace and love along the way. And each of them was an advocate for civil rights. Each of them was deeply invested into promoting a thriving community, and each of them showed me both pride and humility in public service. So I'd first and foremost like to acknowledge my colleagues at the Japanese American Citizens League. The Seattle chapter is the flagship chapter of what is the nation's oldest and largest Asian American civil rights organization. They were outside yesterday in the rain doing the annual Aki Kurose Middle School Beautification Project, giving back to community, led by Aki's son, Paul Kurose, who, ironically, his brother, Guy Kurose, is the one who taught me how to throw a punch. From a young age, JACL gave me so many tools to be an effective civil rights advocate and a public servant. And so I'd also like to especially recognize my fellow board member, Mika Kurose, who inherited her grandmother's gentle tenacity, as well as my father, Senator Bob Hasegawa, who showed me the ropes of mass mobilization and direct action, as well as Representative Sharon Tomiko Santos, who showed me how to walk the halls of power with confidence and purpose. And I would sincerely like to thank, as I call him, Uncle Eddie Rye Jr., for whom the Asian community is never an afterthought, nor are immigrants or women. He works so hard every day to elevate the issues, and he doesn't overcomplicate the simple premise of fairness. He opened so many doors for me, and it has been a unique privilege for me to learn from your ways. And I'd also like to especially acknowledge Hayward and Michelle Evans, who never sleep on injustice, and they're always front and center in supporting people who are willing to do the work. And I'll close with this. I ran for the Port of Seattle Commission last year because I was raised by my community to know that economic empowerment can lead to social justice. I didn't run thinking that I'd be talking about women's rights or access to abortion care or access to period products to end the feminine tax that has always existed on women. But as it turns out, systems of oppression exist everywhere, and it is our job to hold the line at every level of government, including special government like the Port of Seattle. So I'd like to thank the elders who paved the way so that I might occupy a space for a time, for a greater purpose, for posterity. I am deeply humbled by this, my beautiful community. Okage samade. Thank you.
You know, during the 63 March on Washington, the NAACP and A. Philip Randolph Institute and the Black Clergy and the Urban League were in the front of that and organizing. Bayard Rustin, I can't leave him out. So I want to bring up the president of Seattle A. Philip Randolph Institute. That's how my family got to Seattle. In 1950 in Shreveport, Louisiana, A. Philip Randolph designated Eddie Rice Sr. to be one of the Northwest organizers for the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters. And we moved up here in 1952. I did have an opportunity to meet A. Philip Randolph when I was 12 years old. But I still remember it. It was one of his journeys he made through Seattle. So Gabriel Prawl is the president. I want you to have a few words, sir. Since you guys were instrumental in 63 March.
Thank you, Brother Eddie. When Senator Santos mentioned about the illness that's been affecting a lot of women today, and it's been for a long time, it reminds me of my mentor, Berlin Jones Davis. I used to be here with her every year as she participated in organizing and working with Eddie and this event. And I miss her a whole lot. My name is Gabriel Prawl, and I want to say greetings to all you brothers and sisters. I'm also the president of the Seattle chapter of the A. Philip Randolph Institute, and also vice president of ILW Local 52. I would like to start by saying, power is the flower of organization. Salvation for race, nation, or class must come from within. Freedom is never granted, it is won. Justice never given, it is exacted. A community or a country is democratic only when the humblest, the weakest person can enjoy the highest civil, economic, and social rights that the biggest and most powerful possess. The struggle must be continuous, for freedom is never a final fact. With a continuing evolving process to higher and higher level of human and social, economic, political, and religious relationship. Nothing counts but pressure, and more pressure, and still more pressure. That broad, organized, aggressive mass action. Equality is the heart and the essence of democracy, freedom and justice, equality of opportunity. In industry, in labor unions, in school, in college, government, and politics, and before the law, there must be no dual standard and justice, no dual rights, privilege, duties, or responsibilities of citizenship, no dual form of freedom. This were a quote from A. Philip Randolph. Philip Randolph, who organized in 1925, they organized and led the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, the first predominantly African-American labor union. And as we continue to see in his journey, he made a lot of changes in the politics when it comes to changing bills, creating bills, and changing policy. I'm glad to represent A. Philip Randolph today. I'm glad to be here honoring the 1963 March on Washington. But I got to be clear, we got a lot of work to do, and the struggle continue. Thank you very much for giving me the time.
Before we call the president of the NAACP up, I want Chandler to just hit one tune. In about 25 minutes, we'll be done, y'all. It won't take long. Garfield graduate of 2019, transferred from Kennedy Catholic High School for the music program in the Quincy Jones Performing Arts Center. Go ahead, Chandler.
Check. Thank you, Uncle Eddie. I appreciate it. Hello, everyone. My name is Chandler Williams, born and raised here in Seattle, Washington. Garfield graduate. I'll be singing "A Change Is Gonna Come" by Sam Cooke. That message embodies so much of what Dr. King stood for and marched for. So, yeah, I want to continue that moment even today. Thank you. I was born by the river in a little town. Oh, and just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know change won't come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too hard living, and I'm afraid to die. 'Cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. I go to the movie and I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Then I go to my brother and I say, brother, help me please. Then he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. Oh, and there have been times that I thought I wouldn't last for too long, but now I know I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes it will.
All right, now thank you, Mr. Chandler Williams. From Chandler Productions, playing in adult venues when he was 16. He's that talented. Next, very pillar of a civil rights community in Seattle, Martin Luther King Jr. County, Washington State, and across the country is the NAACP. And I'd like to have the president of the Seattle King County branch of the NAACP, Carolyn Riley Payne, have a few words.
Thank you. Good afternoon, family. It is so good to see all of you, and it's so good for us to be here today. Just a few words. They wanted me to say something about the Supreme Court's ruling on about the changing the laws to set us back to where we came from. Black women have the most, how can I say it, died the most in childbirth than anybody else in the country. What does that tell you? That our access to health care is impacted, and we cannot allow that to continue to happen. We have to continue to fight. The fight is not over. It has just really begun. We think that we have made it, and you might say, oh, well, you know, we don't need, don't worry about abortions, because in the state of Washington, it's not about just the state of Washington. It's about your sisters and your cousins and your aunts in Mississippi, Arizona, Alabama. Those are the people that we are also fighting for. So it's just not us, because we cannot be selfish, because you never know when it's going to be you. Now, I just have one more thing to say. Jerome Powell, most of you may know who he is. He is on the Federal Reserve Board. He recently stated, higher interest rates are necessary to bring down inflation, and it will cause some pain to businesses and households. Now, if you read between the lines, what he's saying is white folks are catching a cold. So Black folks and BIPOC people, communities, get ready to get pneumonia. So what he is telling us, get ready, and we need to be ready to support our community. Go and support Black businesses. Think twice, even when you're on the internet and Amazon, buy Black. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I would like to have Reverend Dr. Leslie David Braxton, the senior pastor at New Beginnings Fellowship Church, to come up and have some words. Reverend Braxton? Y'all give him an applause. He's a bad speaker.
Good afternoon, everyone. And we are honored and privileged to be here. We thank God for the Mayor Bruce Harrell, to all of our elected officials, all of our clergy. We thank God for you. It's an honor to be in your presence. To Police Chief Diaz, we thank God for his presence here today, and for all of you, my brothers and my sisters of every hue and stripe. I am privileged to be here for the 59th anniversary of the great and historic March on Washington. But it is even more so the 67th anniversary, if not perhaps better stated, commemoration of the death, the murder, and the mutilation of 14-year-old Emmett Till, whose family had sent him from his native Chicago down to the state of Mississippi for the summer with relatives, but did not mentor him enough in the mores of the dirty South, where a culture where when a white woman cried, a Black man died. And a white woman falsely cried, and that young man died. And some attribute that as being the start of the modern civil rights movement, because it was the tragic, cathartic event likened unto the George Floyd event that caused a reckoning with race in this country. Some would say the civil rights movement began the year earlier in the 1954 Supreme Court decision of Brown versus the Board of Education in Topeka, Kansas. but it was Rosa Parks who would say later that when she sat down that day and refused to give up her seat on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama in December of 1955, like she had done countless times before, her defiance on that day was because she couldn't get off her mind what they had done to Emmett Till just 4 months earlier. And it's interesting, when Trent Lott, former senator from Mississippi, was asked, when was America at its greatest? Because he was seen wearing a Making America Great Again cap, a MAGA cap. And his answer was 1955, that he felt that the greatest iteration of American society was the America that mutilated and murdered a 14-year-old boy and threw him in the Tallahatchie River till his body washed up along some lonely riverbank. And so here we are today at a strange time in the life of our country. It seems to be underscored by nature itself is shouting out something is wrong in the soul of the nation, indeed the world, because we're seeing neo-fascism, nationalism, anti-Semitism, right-wing extremism all over the world, anti-democratic behavior, not only in China and Russia and North Korea, but we see it in Venezuela and Hungary. We see it in the United States of America. And we can decode the language, Making America Great Again, because we realize that there have always been two conflicting visions for American society, that the second and unconfessed one has recently come to the surface loud and proud. Those of us who might call ourselves progressives, we have been marching for and praying for and laboring toward the dream of a more perfect union defined as a pluralistic and ethnically, racially, religiously pluralistic society with freedom and justice for all, who had equal rights under the law, equal protections under the law, equal opportunity within the law, equal accountability to a law, because we were a nation of laws, not men, where no one was above the law, even the occupant of the White House. That's what we believed in, and that's what we were striding toward, groping toward, praying for, living for, marching for, voting for, dying for. But alongside that, there's been another vision of American society. It has always been there. That's been a vision of American society. There was privilege for some. There was domination by others. Can I just be specific? White supremacy. Male domination. Heterosexism. Christian nationalism. And throughout the history of this country, these two visions for society have been bumping heads. And now, those who have gone underground for the last few decades, last few generations, because it was politically unpopular to openly voice one's racism, one's misogyny, one's nationalism. We've reached a day and time where what was once unthinkable to say out loud now is loud and proud. And so here we are in an unusual moment. We've learned a hard lesson. Those of us, again, who call ourselves progressives, who have been fighting for the last 75 years, I have not been alive all those years. But during those 75 years, we've been fighting to reconstitute American society on a broader base of liberty, civil rights, women's rights, labor rights, environmental rights, sexual minorities' rights. And we allowed ourselves to believe that some of these battles, hard fought and only recently gained, were fought and won once and for all. And we allowed ourselves to fall into the malaise of thinking that, well, I cannot imagine that they would ever overturn Roe v. versus Wade. I cannot imagine. Because isn't that settled law? And we've lived to learn. There's no such thing as settled law when one court can overrule what another court has passed, and one Congress can overturn what another Congress has passed. There's no such thing as settled law. Some of us thought we just couldn't imagine that the Voting Rights Act that had been expanded, amended, enlarged over and over and over again, even under Republican presidents. We never thought that they would gut Section 5, the preventative, the proactive part that needed pre-clearance for any changes in voting rights laws of all the 12 states of the former Confederacy, and then was enlarged in 1975 to make that national. Or Section 2, the reactive part, that any action that, whether intended or unintentionally, caused negative impacts upon historically discriminated people was illegal. We never imagined that it would be gutted by Chief Justice, who framed the essay saying that it was no longer needed because these actions were not going on. Ruth Bader Ginsburg pushed back and said that taking the Voting Rights Act down because you don't see outrageous acts of discrimination in voting is, in American society, is like taking down your umbrella in a rainstorm because you're not getting wet. You're not getting wet because you're under your umbrella. And if you take it down, you're going to get soaked. And within 12 hours of taking down Section 5, all former states of the former Confederacy, along with Wisconsin, along with Pennsylvania, begin putting in place, setting in motion laws to begin voter suppression. We couldn't imagine. We couldn't imagine that you couldn't get gun reform after Columbine, after Newtown, after Stonecroft High School in Florida, after even Uvalde. We couldn't imagine if 90% of the American public wants serious gun reform, that we'd have a Congress so bought and sold by the weapons and munitions industry that now they would be representing industry and not representing constituencies that are tired of their children being savaged in classrooms and worshipers and houses of worship, and regular, ordinary people like you and me trying to take a trip to the mall. It turns into a killing field. We couldn't imagine that citizens of this country would invade their own capital, would weaponize the flag that they got mad at Colin for bowing silently and reverently before, and then whipping and killing police that they said they loved, and defecate and urinate in the citadel of our democracy, and then go home unmolested. And no one seriously held accountable even yet. We could not imagine that the same Supreme Court would say that the EPA can no longer put emissions limits on corporations while we are seeing our coastline evacuated every year, and we're seeing historic flooding that's washing away cities, and once in a century droughts in California, and seeing the whole creation, as it says in Romans 8, groaning and rocking and reeling like a woman having birth. We fell into thinking that evil had retired, only to learn that evil never retires. When it's forced to, it will retreat, to regroup, and resurface. And we are where we are in part. Hard-fought gains have now been lost. God knows when they'll be regained. And now we have to learn that we've got to re-prosecute old battles, relitigate old laws, because we fell asleep in thinking that they were won once and for all. And to do this, my brothers and my sisters, we got to work together. Can I say that again? We got to work together. There's a story about a farmer that there was a package delivered, and when it was opened up, it was a mouse trap. And the mouse living in the hole in the wall got upset and ran out to the chicken coop and told the chickens, "We got a problem." The chicken said, "What is the problem?" It says that the mistress of the house ordered a mouse trap and now we in trouble. But the chicken said, "I don't even go in the house. That's not my problem." So the chicken ran out to the pigsty and went to the pig that was rolling around in the slop, happy as could be. The mouse said, "We got a problem." "What is the problem?" He said, "The mistress ordered a mouse trap. And so now we got a problem." He says, "How's that my problem?" He says, "I don't even go in the house either. That's your problem." And so the mouse
not willing to give up the fight, ran out into the field and found the cow and said, "We got a problem." And the cow said, "What's the problem?" He said, "The mistress ordered a mouse trap. That's our problem." He said, "I am a 2,000-pound mammal. How is that? I can step on and crush a mouse trap. How is that my problem?" Well, as fate would have it, a few days later, the mistress of the house got sick. And her husband ordered the doctor to come, and the doctor came and said, "Well, make her some chicken soup. See if she don't feel better." He sent one of the workers out to the chicken coop and wrung the chicken's neck and came back in and made a pot of chicken soup. Her condition didn't get any better. And then finally, when people were coming over to visit her thinking that she was on her last leg, they got hungry when they came over. And they said, "Can you make us breakfast while we're here?" So he said, "Yes, go in there and slaughter one of them hogs and make some ham." Eventually, the lady died, and when they died, they had the service. They all came back to the house for the repast, and they decided to have a barbecue to feed all the people who come back for the repast. And they had to go and slaughter the cow so that they could have steaks for the barbecue. And the moral of the story is, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And we who in the church have seen the moral light on civil rights, but have been silent on women's rights and stood against gay rights, we got to realize that the same people who want to put gays back into the closet, want to put women back barefoot and pregnant, want to put us way back in the back of the bus, and our Latin brothers and sisters on the other side of the Rio Grande. None are free until all are free, and we've got to work together. Not only that, I'm going to say this as I look around at this crowd and this audience. History changes when young people get serious about serious things when they're young. Most of us here, our marching days are behind us. Or if we're going to be in a march, it's going to be very short. History is never changed by people who their main concern wherever they go is how close they are to the bathroom. When Martin King and his crowd marched from Selma to Montgomery, they were 30-something-year-old men. He and Malcolm X never saw their 40th birthday. Martin Luther, the great reformer, was a young man when he tacked his 95 Theses on the door of the Castle Church in Wittenberg and sparked what we know today as the Protestant Reformation. Alexander the Great was 25 years of age when he sat down and wept because there were no more worlds to conquer, and Jesus Christ was 33 when he offered himself up as the Lamb of God to take away the sins of the world. History changes when young people get serious about serious things while they're still young. Plato had to hand the baton to Socrates and Socrates to Aristotle. And my brothers and sisters, the baby boomers and baby buster generation have got to pass that baton to the millennials, the X and the Ys and the Zs, because we are going to rise or fall on whether or not our young people today can get the same fire in their belly and the same clear-eyed vision in their eyes as their grandmothers and grandfathers who had the nurse sense to say and intone, "I do believe that we shall overcome someday." We can provide wisdom, we can provide perspective, we can provide encouragement, we can provide resources. But if we don't take hands with the next generations and get our children and grandchildren in this fight, we will not have the soldiers to reclaim ground that we've lost and continue inching, groping, striding, lunging toward becoming that more perfect union, a pluralistic, democratic society where all of us have equal rights under the law, equal protections under the law, equal opportunities under the law, equally accountable to the law, because we are a nation of laws and not men, where no one is supposed to be above the law. That is our charge. And so I say to you, on the 67th anniversary of the death of Emmett Till, the George Floyd tragic cathartic event of its day, which sparked a nation into re-examining its soul and began reconstituting this society on a broader base of liberty, let us adhere to the words of the old Lion of the Senate, imperfect as he was, but yet from a position of privilege, saw himself in solidarity with the last and the least. Ted Kennedy, who said, "For those whose cares have been our concern, The work goes on, the cause endures, the hope still lives, and the dream shall never die. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, someday we will be free at last.
Well, I told you were in for a treat when that gentleman had the microphone. Charlie James, I need Charlie James to come here right quick. And Charlie James is the founder of this park, and he is the main organizer. So we have to acknowledge this brother here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I just wanted to say very quickly that this park ain't done. Some of us know we got to get bathrooms. We got to get some other stuff out here. It's going to cost a couple more $1 million. But I also want to do a shout out to Jesse Weinberger. Is Jesse still here? Okay. I want to do a shout out to Jesse Weinberger because those seats that you guys are sitting on up there are there because Jesse went to the state representative, state of Washington, and got the money to get $1.5 million to do that part of the park. So it's important that activists do their work, that politicians then come behind us and do the things they need to do to take it the next step further. And luckily for this park, we had the right combination. And even though I'm the only living member that created this park, I love it. But we ain't done with it yet.
Next, the next honoree is Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell. And presenting that is the Sam Smith Public Servant Award is Sam Smith's oldest son, A. Carl Smith.
Thank you, Eddie. You know, I was sitting at home earlier this week, or past week actually, and I got a call from Brother Haywood. And you know, I like the technology nowadays because when you look and you can decide who's calling and figure out if you want to answer or not. And I don't know if you guys have ever gotten a call from Brother Evans, but he always has a request. So I was like, what does he want? But I answered, and then he said, Carl, I'd like you to come and talk to us a little bit about your dad for the, as we're going to give this award. It's called the Sam Smith Elected Official Outstanding Achievement Award. So I asked him, what should I say? And he said, I don't care what you say, just be brief. So I'm just going to say a few things, not very much. But I thought about what would my dad say if he was here and responding to that question. And it would be that how fortunate he was when the military plucked him from his home state of Louisiana and brought him to Seattle. And he made a home here and was received by the Seattle community. He was able to get a degree from Seattle U and from the University of Washington and went on to be elected as a state representative for 5 two-year terms for 10 years and moved on for that to the city council where he was elected 6 terms, 4 years each, 24 years. And it was at large. I mean, at that point in time, it was a different system, so you had to have the whole community. But the foundation always was the 37th district, which was our community back in the day. And so it was a support that made it who he was. Now there's a park down the street that bears his name. It's up there about 4 or 5 blocks, not too far from here. But if he was here, he would say that that park is not about Sam Smith. It's about what the community did to support him, to allow him to have a successful career in being one of the leaders in his era. Because every era has to have someone to take on the banner and do the things. So that leads me to a point where I was asking him about politics. So this is about politics right now. As a young man, I said, Dad, what is politics? And he said, well, politics has 2 parts. One of the parts is the community expresses its position on issues by things such as the march and by being involved. So community involvement is the key. So the other part is by voting. And he was the recipient of the community support vote several times for him to be who he was and to live, as the kids say, his best life. So now that moves me on to where we are now. The person that's receiving this award, I first became aware of him when he was a student, scholar athlete at my alma mater, his alma mater, Garfield High School, which is celebrating its 100-year centennial right now. Go Dogs! And he moved on to the University of Washington and continued to be a scholar athlete, a star there. And as he graduated from there, he went on to become a lawyer and have a very successful legal practice. And then he decided to put those services, those talents, to public service. And he ran for city council and was successfully elected to 3 terms, 4 years, 12 years as city council. Then he retired. So he thought. After the city looked at the ongoing challenges of this era and looking for some leadership in this era, the leaders of Seattle and the communities went to the recipient and said, hey, we need to have you pursue being the leader for us and taking on the challenge. And it is a challenge. It's not a great job. You guys don't know how difficult that job may be. It looks good, it sounds good to be the mayor, but it's not a great job. It's a hard job. And they asked him to take that on. And our mayor, the mayor of this great city, the Honorable Bruce Harrell, Esquire, took that on. So would you all join me giving a round of applause to the mayor of this great city, a man that I call affectionately my brother, the Honorable Bruce Harrell, Esquire, Mayor.
Thank you, Brother Smith. Well, we've been blessed. Thank you, Reverend Braxton. Your brilliance. I was about to call Bishop Zachary Bruce up here to put a little something on it too, but we ain't gonna be here all day. Reverend Hurd's here. He could bless us too. You know, what I'll say is we're winning, and I wanted Bush Harrison, who's our local legend, and Chandler, you go on places, brother. You are beautiful. So this is a blessing. The commemoration committee has blessed me. I was blessed twice today. At 5 o'clock a.m. I participated when you all was sleeping. I see you, Callie was there with me. Gerald was there with me. I was with them. I was led. I was not leading. I was led in an African tradition where we would wear all white. My sister Sharon said, put all white. I said, I'm not trying to look like Jesus up here. We had on all white. And we listened to African traditions and folklore. I've been blessed. I've been blessed with Bridget. She's inspiring us all right now, sharing her health challenges. And we love you. We love you, what you're doing with the Sierra Sisters. I asked Bush to play this song. Thank you, Eddie, Haywood, Carl, Reverend Braxton. 1967, this song was written. What a wonderful world. Study Louis Armstrong's history. This man hailed from Louisiana like the black side of my family. He was a New Orleans boy. He had a rough childhood. Had a terrible relationship with his father. Spent a lot of time in youth detention and in jail, and became a creator. During a world where the Vietnam War was occurring, civil rights was occurring, he was saying about what a beautiful world it was. He adopted a boy that was 3 years old that he knew was developmentally disabled because he had a brain injury. He raised that boy as if it were his own. It was his own. He adopted that boy. Louis Armstrong, in that kind of world, said, it's what a wonderful world. What is my message? We are winning right now. We got Dr. Brent Jones as a superintendent, Brandon Hershey, Claudia, we are winning. Sharon, we are winning. God has blessed us to put us in the right position right now. Chief Diaz, Harrell Scoggins, 2 men of color who I'm asking to protect our community. We are winning. Firefighters up here baking in the sun, protecting and loving our community. We are winning. Trump will not take this city over. The wisdom that Pastor Leslie Braxton has given all of us, the wisdom that our faith community has given us, we are winning. So I take this award to say thank you. These brothers, I knew this guy when he had the big old afro and his hair wasn't this color, and they set the foundation for me to be the 57th mayor of this city. So in police reform, homelessness, housing affordability, education, civil rights, we will win. Thank you very much for this award. I am humbled.
And then he wants to get the next shot. Not right now. I'll be holding like Trump upside down. No, let me go ahead. Okay, we'll get this one.
Right Production.
That's right. Fly right. That's right. You did a good job at the Garfield Centennial yesterday, too. Okay, I saw Nate Miles. Nate Miles is Minister Nate Miles of Mount Zion Baptist Church. He's also a vice president for Eli Lilly. He's on the National Urban League Board, a national whole bunch of boards, because he has a whole bunch of money. But anyway, and we want to get him on our board because he got a whole bunch of money. And you will be getting the ad, brother.
Thank you, Eddie. First, giving honor to God, who is the head of my life. I just want to welcome you all out here. It's so good to see you all on this day and to be able to come back for such an auspicious occasion. Mr. Mayor, I just want to say that I am so proud and pleased you announced Chief Scroggins the other day. I heard something that was said there was a big marine fire down on the dock. If y'all wasn't watching the news, they said it could have burned up every boat in the marina, and his crew got it put out in record time. And that's the kind of fire chief we got down there. I went out on a Sunday afternoon, 3:30 in the afternoon. We were talking about community stuff. I sat next to Chief Diaz. He was down there out in the community on a Sunday afternoon, 3:30 in the afternoon. So you don't see those things when they're talking bad about what's happening. But this mayor said we're going to have one Seattle, and we've got one Seattle, and it's happening. One Seattle, and he's making it happen. And I'm so pleased, proud, and privileged to be here today for this award that I get a chance to give away. It's an award that has to do with the Urban League. And for those of you who may or may not know me, I've been at the Urban League for years. And just because I was on and then came back again because I couldn't get enough of it, it was such a good thing. And I came back at a point when the Urban League was not doing that well. And I was asked by the president and CEO at that time, Nate, could you come back? We just need you to come back, help us raise some money. Representative Santos, get us back on our feet. If we can come back, nobody beg like you do. Come and put the bag on some people and let's get going again, Gerald, and we'll get going. So I had more boards than I could do, but it's Black folks. So I said, okay, I'll go ahead and do it. So we started doing it and things were going good and it was really starting to pick up. Little did I know that there was a diamond in the rough down in a place called Los Angeles, down in Los Angeles. And that we may wind up crossing paths one day. And one day we lost our CEO who had been doing a good job and people were, oh God, we're going to be doomed. And then this woman walked into the office. And all I can tell you is ever since then, this program has been on steroids. We have had more brothers and sisters records who were in trouble and couldn't get a job cleaned up. We had more people who couldn't get jobs now in housing. We have had, because of people like Linda Mitchell and others, we have had more mentally ill brothers and sisters, not just get mental illness care, but they started talking about it. Because y'all know we didn't want to talk about mental illness. She got us to talking about it. When the coronavirus, when that Rona was running loose out there in our community, she made us talk about Rona. And that we wasn't going to let people catch it and die in our community. We were going to be on the forefront of it. And she got out there on the forefront of it and didn't care. And the best part about this, and I think Dr. Braxton mentioned it earlier, she did it with young folks. She did it with these young folks that was out there doing this stuff. And it reminded me, Reverend Braxton, of these young folks that she had of the Joshua generation. You guys may have heard about the Joshua generation and how it was talked about. You know, Joshua was the guy that came after Moses, and people used to know that Moses would give orders to Joshua and he'd say, go tell Pharaoh to let my people go. And Joshua would run down and say, you better let my people go. And he'd run back. And so Moses would be real, or Joshua was real bad because he had Moses behind him. He had some of the other prophets behind him. He could tell him that kind of stuff. He was really bad. Well, one day Moses died. And all of a sudden, some of the other prophets died off. So now Joshua was sitting up there and he was starting to get kind of nervous because he didn't have Moses behind him and he didn't have these prophets behind him. And then God had to let him know, wait a minute, Reverend Anderson, that wasn't Moses that was giving you the power to go tell Pharaoh that. That was me working through Moses. He said, and don't you worry about nothing. I will be with you just as I was with Moses. So don't you worry about nothing. And so we had this woman who was with us because we didn't have some of the other big leaders. We didn't have John Hurst Adams no more. We didn't have Reverend McKinney no more. We didn't have some of these people that she needed to go out there. But God told her, you go forward and get those grants. You go forward and ask for the money. You go forward and tell them. And if they ask you who sent you, you tell them that the Moses generation sent you and that you qualified, deputized, dignified, and bona fide. And you here to get every dime you can for this community. And that's why I'm here to tell you that that woman is here with a bigger, better Urban League than we have ever had in a long time since Edward T. Pratt. This award for the Edwin T. Pratt goes to Miss Michelle Merriweather. Give her up. Give it up for her.
How you doing, Tony? Good to see you. Good to see you, Mr. Mayor, Daryl. When Mr. Rye called me and said that I was receiving this award, it was not only humbling, but I couldn't believe it because I've only been here for 7 years. But this community embraced me. My elders have taught me well and quickly. Even when Mr. Mayor was in council, he would call me to his office and make sure that the Urban League was doing right, was on the right track, and help me make decisions. And even when the Urban League wasn't necessarily making the right decisions, I could always rely on Mr. Rye to call and have a conversation in love. I always know when I see Mr. Rye calling, he's calling with love first and to do what's best for this community. And I appreciate that. I am humbled to be here and receiving this award in the name of my predecessor, who was assassinated before his work was complete, for doing the work and making the tough decisions. I'm humbled to be accepted by this community. And as I look around and see my elders, my friends, my mentors, and people I have tremendous respect for, I know that I am home. And while my mother may be in California, my father is an ancestor, I know that I am home and I am safe and I'm protected by this community each and every day. So that gives me the strength to go ask for the money. That gives me the strength to bring these resources back to our community, returned back to our community, because they were ours to begin with. And they were given to those folks by the sweat of our backs. And so with the work that I get to do now, because I consider it a privilege, is to return the wealth and resources back to our people. And I won't rest until that is done. And I get to do it because and on behalf of all of you. So I always say that if you ever see it, first off, if you are ever in need, know that I am your friend and here to support you. And second, if you ever think for a second that I or the Urban League is not on the right track, please call me and have a conversation, and I'll do anything in my power to correct that action. While we may not always agree, we are all going towards the same direction for justice and freedom for our people and for all underserved people and communities. So I'm humbled, I am grateful, and I thank you.
You guys close to the photo right here. You got the flag? Step over. Okay, one of our committee members is not here. His brother died. He's in Wisconsin, but his son, who's also Reverend Paul Benz, is right here. Raise your hand, Paul Benz. Okay, his father's one of the brothers that sit in the meeting in Olympia and stuff when they make decisions and come back and tell us everything they're saying. And then we know which way to go. So the last honoree is Claude Burfect, who actually attended the March in Washington, and he's going to be presented by the Washington State Labor Council President, Larry Brown. And here comes Larry. Larry was a recipient of the MLKCC Award during the April 4th ceremony.
Well, good afternoon, sisters and brothers. Again, my name is Larry Brown. It's my honor to serve as president of the Washington State Labor Council. And I love the relationship that we've developed with the Martin Luther King Commemorative Committee. And we continue that work together. But today, I got a call from Haywood, who told me that I had to be here this afternoon, and he assured me that it was good to be here, but that I needed to keep it short. And so I do believe in the 3 B's of public speaking: brief, brilliant, and be seated. And I can usually hit 2 out of 3. So look, I've known Claude Burfect for, I think, 30 years. Served with that brother for probably 20 of them on the MLK Labor Council Executive Board. And I always knew that if I wanted to get something done, if I could get Claude on my side, we would get something done. And he helped us move the labor agenda. You know, Claude was a young man, even younger than he is today, when out of high school in 1963 in New Orleans. He joined a group of preachers, a lawyer, and other activists on a school bus bound for Washington, D.C. with a 2-day trip on a hot bus through the back roads in states where Jim Crow reigned, and where they were relegated to colored-only bathrooms, where they could even find those, and where restaurant stops often meant that they had to bring the food back to the bus and keep on moving. At Southern University in Baton Rouge in the fall of 1963, he remained an activist, participating in sit-ins, lunch counters, bucking the establishment. He said he was arrested, spat upon, bitten by dogs, sprayed by fire hoses. He was near the middle of the crowd, but later he was in the middle of the crowd in Washington, D.C., when he heard that famous speech with 250,000 other people, where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered the I Have a Dream speech and was inspired a generation. In a moment, Claude was heard to say, in a moment that he would never forget, and every time that he hears the speech, he still gets the thrill. It is my pleasure to pass this honor to Claude Burfect for his work in the community, somebody that I look up to and consider not just a brother, but a friend, Claude Burfect.
We have a slight change in the program. We have Larry Cordier, who is a Lakota Sioux. And since it's the Bernie White Bear Award, we want him to have a couple of words and also be in the photo.
Thank you, Eddie. I'm proud and honored to stand before you. I stand in a humble way. I stand on a very sacred day, humbled by all who are here, our elected officials. Thank you for the good work. All you people, grassroots, who aren't being called up, I'm awed by your work. It comes from the heart, and that makes it sacred. When you work for the people, for a better quality of life, you're doing sacred work, and that is one of our values in leadership. My name is Larry Cordier. I'm from South Dakota, but I've been living in this city since 1978. So I consider it my city. And I want to thank Harrell for making this a better city. My sons live here. My granddaughter lives on Beacon Hill. So this is a heartfelt. But what we're here to talk about is this young man right here. He gets the Bernie White Bear Award. Bernie was the leader of our Native community. He was well respected. He was very wise. He was very generous. with his leadership. You could sit with him and he would explain what was going on and his strategy and why it was important for you to participate, why you were important. And he always expressed those things that we value, our elders, our children, our Mother Earth. So I stand here because Bernie worked with Roberto Maestas. He worked with Bob Santos, Eddie Rye, and Larry Gossett. But those were people of color who came together to fight against the system to make sure that we were not divided and everyone shared in the prosperity. Everyone had opportunity, no matter which color, and they came together with that wisdom and showed that strength and the foresight to know how important that was. So we live in a very unique city, very beautiful city. And it's the spirit of giving back to community, to standing strong for your people, your nation, your community, for those who are growing up, our children, our future, our elders who deserve that respect, who hold that culture, for our warriors like we see up here, our Native people, our police force, our firemen, those who stand and protect our nation. So we're gonna ask Eddie. Okay, so Mr. Claude Burfect, for a life of leadership in championing diversity, equity, a worker's right to collective bargaining, you are honored with the Bernie White Bear Living Legacy Award. Congratulations, young man.
Okay, Claude is gonna have a few words, and ladies and gentlemen, we're almost done. I'm giving it to you. Oh, okay. Oh, good. Right here.
Thank you, Eddie Haywood, MLKCC, for honoring me on this day. Let me just say something. June 14, 1942. That's the day I was born. 80 years ago. Just had my birthday this past June. I was born back in the times when there was Jim Crow. Now, I don't know whether we know, a lot of us don't know about Jim Crow, but there are some of us that do. When I was young and about 6 years old, I used to hear my family talk about Jim Crow, that old Jim Crow. It made me think Jim Crow was a man. Here I am thinking, oh boy, that's a dirty old man, but didn't realize that Jim Crow was a system in the South at that time. Boy, I'm telling you, it was some hard days. But what I didn't realize, and Reverend Braxton took a little bit of my thunder on this, because what I wanted to say, on July 25th, 1941, Chicago, Illinois, August 28, 1955, Drew, Mississippi, Emmett Lewis Till was a 14-year-old African-American boy who was abducted, tortured, lynched in Mississippi in 1955 after being accused of offending a white woman. That was the Jim Crow era. In 1957, I became more active and engaged in the civil rights movement after listening to a speech by Roy Wilkins, who was the president of the National NAACP at Dillard University in New Orleans, Louisiana, historical black college. I was ready to join this great organization, and I did at a cheap cost, $2 a year. During those years, I would say, my Uncle Percy Murphy Griffin and attorney Earl Amity organized what was called voter registration in the South. And remember, voter registration back then, we still having similar problems today with voter suppression and voter registration. During that time, my uncle and Attorney Earl Amedee organized voter registration in Louisiana, in particular New Orleans, because what they did was they recruited high school and college kids in the areas to help our elders on how to pass the literacy test in order for them to exercise their franchise right. Now remember, we just mentioned voter suppression. That was back then where we had to take a literacy test in order to vote. In 1958, I remember vividly, James Farmer of CORE, Congress of Racial Equality, spoke in New Orleans in the civil rights and the rights to demonstrate for those injustices imposed on Black people. What we did was sit-ins, demonstrations, we rallied, we marched. We did everything that we could do because if our people, mothers could shop at your Woolworths, your McCrory's, but they couldn't sit at the counter to eat a goddamn meal. You know, those were days. You know, I had no choice but to get out and do what I could do to bring about change. In 1960, Ella Baker of Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee worked in conjunction with CORE, the sit-in movements, the Freedom Riders, the voter registration, the marches on Washington, which I did on August 28, 1963. Made that long journey, and trust me, we needed a green book to get from the South to Washington, D.C. Otherwise, we might not have made it. Because we had to know where we could stay. We had to know where we could eat. We had to know everything about how to make a safe journey from New Orleans to Washington, D.C. Oh, boy. Also, during the Freedom Riders and all those movements became the Black Power movement. We became a part of the Black Power movement. And if you guys remember in 1968, our athletes, yeah, that's right. In 1966, joined my first union, Boeing Aerospace, 56 years ago. So I've been union for the past 56 years. I've been affiliated with the labor movement since, such affiliates as the Aerospace. I became a member of the Newspaper Guild Union, the Washington Education, the Washington Federation, AFSCME, Martin Luther King Labor, and also affiliated with the Washington State Labor Council. What we are fighting for, what we did in the 50s and the 60s, we are still fighting for in 2022. Social economic justice. Fairness as it manifests societies which include healthcare, employment, housing, which also include the distribution of wealth, opportunities, and privileges. Thank you.
I want you guys to step over here and get in the picture over here, please. And at that time, we're going to have somebody play something mellow. We're going to call, is Reverend Jeffrey still here? Yeah, okay, yeah, okay. So we'll call Minister Jimmy Hurd up. Who? He's not a reverend. Okay. Where? Okay, we'll have you do a benediction for us. Okay, short benediction.
Then I'll squat down. That's a short benediction. Oh, it's our minister up here. May we bow our heads. Lord God, we thank you for all that's been said and done here today. We ask that what we did and said today was pleasing in your sight. We thank you for the people who put this organization together. We thank you for these servants who have given years and years of their life. We ask that you continue to bless them, bless each and every one of us as we leave this place, but never from your presence. This is our prayer, and we pray it in your name. Amen.
Pastor Kerry Anderson, I didn't see you, brother. How you doing? That's Pastor Anderson. Reverend Dr. Kerry Anderson, one of the civil rights leaders of the city and county. Oh, are they gone? I think they're all gone. I think they're gone. Thanks, everybody, for coming out and baking in the sun. Chief Adrian Diaz, Seattle Police Department. Chief Harrell Scoggins, Chief of the Seattle Fire Department. Are there any other people here that advertise? Fred Maxey, Battle Auto and Vessel Licensing, Anchor Group, Larry Williams, and we have others that are coming forth. We're waiting to hear from the NAACP.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Before we all close out, there's one very important person that all of us need to thank and have needed to thank him for many years. And that's Eddie Wright and his family. Thank you so much for coming.
We'll have a follow-up with you on Tuesday.
And this will conclude our broadcast. Thank you for tuning in to Rainier Avenue Radio for our broadcast for the anniversary of the 59th March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom award show and celebration. We'll return you back to your previously scheduled recorded programs. Sorry. And we hope you have a wonderful day. Peace and bless.